Yo, hello everyone, this is Stylish, and this is gonna be a special kind of VOD. You know, the new iCup season has just started, the season 8, and I hope you play as much as you can because it's really good playing early season because then you can play versus really good players even on the lower ranks. Um, this isn't gonna be like a build order or in-game or strategy VOD or anything like that. It's gonna be like a new kind of VOD, and I'm gonna put it in my extra. This is general tip VOD, and it's gonna cover a lot of things. And this specific VOD is gonna be about Terran versus Zerg, and I'm gonna try to cover most things that will occur when you play Terran versus Zerg or the things you want to be thinking about. Of course, I'm gonna miss some things, and you can post in my thread on the forums in my thread if I missed something, and I might do an additional VOD to complement this VOD later on. This is gonna be about Terran versus Zerg, as I said, and I'm gonna do about Terran versus Protoss another time, and Terran versus Terran as well. And I'm gonna divide. This is gonna be quite long VOD, so I'm gonna divide it into different sections. The first section is gonna be how to split the SVs. That's very basic. And the second section is gonna be about building placements. Third section is about timing upgrades and buildings and timings in general. The fourth, I don't remember. Anyway, the next section is gonna be about how I use my control keys, hotkeys, and stuff like that, and uh, how to use the F2, F3, F4 button and stuff like that. Then we're gonna move on to section on um, how to do like a push with with um, with a normal Terran versus Zerg ball. You know, when you have uh, Marines, medics, tanks, and vessels, and you move out to make the first push at about like 9 minutes to 11 minutes or something like that. You move out and just gonna go through a couple of things you want to think about and how to utilize that attack. And then I'm gonna move on to a micro section and then a macro section, and the last one is gonna be about all those things that I didn't know where to put. I didn't know what section to put them in. So, without talking any further, let's just start here with splitting the SVs. Okay, what you want to do when you get into the game is select your let's see here, operation call. You select your command center and make an SV, and then you select your SVs like this, and you click them to a mineral, and then you take two of those SVs like that to another mineral, and then you take one of those SVs to the third mineral and one of the remaining two SVs to a fourth mineral, and hopefully it's gonna look something like this. Okay, I have no idea where this SV came from. Maybe I built it. Okay, anyway, that's a split, um, and you should practice that. It's not really that hard, and sometimes also think not to split like the first SV to this mineral line up here because it's farther away. The closest mineral being this one. It's very good to mine from, so this one you should really mine from, and just try to take the minerals that's closest to the hatcher, to the command center. I mean, it's not really that important if you take like this mineral or this mineral, but just make sure not to take the minerals that's absolute furthest away, because that's not really good. And in the beginning of the game, it's really good to maximize your income by thinking of those things. So let's just move on from that section to building placement section. Okay, the first supply depot I usually make close to the command center. Now, if the minerals were on this side of the command center, um, you can make your supply depot here, because if you make it here, then the SVs will pop out closer to the mineral lines, and that's really good. But now in this case, there is not really. It doesn't really matter if I put my supply depot here. Some pro gamers and some other games used to put like a supply like this, but and that will utilize some increase. It will utilize the mining time of the SV mining from this mineral basically, and I mean it's good, but usually I think it creates a narrow path here, and I don't really think it does that much of a difference. So usually I just place my supply depot here. The big thing is just to place your supply close to your command center, because you don't want to move further away from the mineral lines, and you don't want to lose some mineral timing. So usually I just place my supply depot like that. Okay. And then when you place your supply depot, usually I click and then I shift click and uh, uh, first I place it and then I click on the left mouse button like that, and then while it's still moving to the building, I shift click and click move to the location I'm going to make my barrack, like this. Because then when it finishes, it's going to move to that direction as fast as possible without you actually having to control it. And even if you're here to control it, it's always better to do it like that, because if the SUV stops making the building and he ends up being on top of the building, like uh, bugging around, it will help the SUV to move to this location earlier, even if you just select it and press move button to the place you're gonna place your barrack. So always make sure to use that thing. It's also very good to keep the game clean of idle SUVs and stuff like that. Anyway, now I'm going to talk about the macro building placements. Okay. Uh, for example, on this map, you can place your barrack, your initial barrack here, and there are several reasons why I do that. Um, First of all, you have to think a little bit about the late game. What buildings are you going to have in the late game? And that, for example, you're going to make a command center here, not a command center. Oh, let's slow down here. You're gonna make a comset station here. Okay, so you don't want to make your first barrack like this, because then you're gonna block your comset station. And also you're gonna want to make the barrack quite close to your command center, because I could have made it like here, down here, or something like that, and it would be closer to the choke. But since it's a 4-player map, and you will not always scout him on the first try, sometimes he will do a 4-pull or a 9-pull before Overlord or something like that, and then it's really good to have the barrack close to command center and also close to the supply depots. For example, if he comes with 4-pull, you will delay his circlings here with using SUVs, and then you make a bunker. And in this example, I would have made my bunker like in this position, like here, because then it covers the barrack, it covers the command center, it covers most of the mineral line and the supplies, and the marine have a very short distance to move to the barrack like this. That's really good, because if you have your barrack here, it has to move all the way up here to the barrack, to the bunker, and well, then the Zerglings can kill the marine before it gets into the bunker. So that's why I usually place it close to my command center. Anyway, I'm just gonna build up a little macro mode area here. Just a second. Operation qual. Oops. Operation qual. Okay. I'll just build up here. Okay, so on this map, for example, you can make your factory over here, like over here, because if you do that, you will have another space to actually make a barrack here. But this is actually just a special location where you have this really big area to build. On most maps, maybe you won't have like this big area, and then it's just good to place your factory. Usually I place it to the right side, but I'm going to talk more about that just in a second, and I'll tell you more about it. I'm just going to finish the SimCity here. Okay, so let's talk about this now. Why do I place the buildings like this? Well, first of all, I use my F4 button, and I will get back to the macro mode like this, and then I can see all the buildings in one screen. So if I want a macro, I just MVT like that, and it's really easy, because if you have like one barrack here and one here and one here, you have to move to that and then that and then that, and well, the macro time will just be a lot longer. So usually I try to fit all the macro buildings in one screen, and that's really good. And about like the tech buildings, for example, e-base, academies, I'm gonna make one soon, factories and starports and science facilities. It's really good to place them in a safe spot in your base. for example, on this location, his Mutalisks are gonna be attacking you from this side, your expansion and front here, and also here. And if you have your tech units in a safe position, he won't really be able to snipe the SVs with Mutalisks or Zerglings that are building it, so you won't get any delay time in your tech, and that's very important when you're doing like specific build orders and stuff like that. And also it's good to have them not only so he cannot snipe them, but also so he cannot see them, because then he won't know your timings and he won't know if you have 2 E-base or whatever you have. And well, basically when you have a 2-base Terran versus Zerg, you usually have on 2-base you have 6 barracks. Usually you have 6 barracks, and these 2 tech buildings, factory and starport, and then just a little bit later you're gonna have 1 more factory or 1 more starport, and then you're gonna expand usually, because usually you don't have more than 6 barracks on 2 bases, unless you have 2 starports and going SK Terran, then you can have 9 barracks and 2 starports, and you will be able to macro from that on 2 bases. So that's why this is really enough. 6 barracks, 1 factory, and 1 starport to begin with, and then I usually add another starport in the late game. But on this map, as I said before, I could just have placed my factory over here, starport over here, and site visit over here, and then I would have more space to place barracks in the late game, and it would be even more easy to macro. So, well, that's that about the macro mode building placements, and let's move on to the bunker placements. Okay, so what you usually do versus Terran versus Zerg is that you place your command center in the expansion, and you do like a 1 racks FE expansion, of course. And then it's very important that when you make your barrack, it's usually you don't usually want to have the barrack in the open like this, because then it's really easy for the Zerglings to surround it. Usually you want to have it so it can cover the entrance, so the Zerglings cannot run by without getting shot. And you want to cover the SCVs, usually most of the SCVs, and you want to cover the command center, but also have like the bunker in the dark. For example, if you have it like over here, it's going to be very hard for the Zerglings to attack it, but then it's not going to cover the SCV here or protect you very well. So usually, for example, in this location, I could place my bunker like this, and it also would be easier for your Marines. After you place it like that, you can have your Marines like here, and then you will cover this area. And the only thing he can do is actually run by this area. But then it's much easier to take your SCVs and block and kill them with your Marines. So when you're doing this, I'm going to show you here. Usually I have my Marines at this location. Now if you don't have a bunker, if you don't have it, then I usually have my Marines more close to the ramp here, because if it's going to do an all-in Zergling move or anything like that, you're going to have your SVs mining there, and then you have your Marines here, and at the same time as you see he's attacking you, you take your Marines, move up the ramp, take your SCVs, move to the minerals in the main, and they will go to the choke here, and you will press stop here, and they will block all the Zerglings, and then you will be able to kill them. So that's really good versus all-in Zerglings attack. But let's say we make a bunker here anyway. Then you will have your Marines. Usually you can have the Marines like this, and it will be really hard for his Zerglings to attack. But even if you have a bunker and Marines, it's really good to take your SVs if it does an all-in Zergling move, or it doesn't have to be all-in, it's just a Zergling move, and bring your SVs in front of it here just to make a wall. That's really good. And sometimes a Zerg will just move like 2 or 3 Zerglings in here and attack some SVs, and your bunker won't be in fire. And this is usually to make you move out with the Marines like this, and then he has hidden a lot of Zerglings here, and then he runs by and he owns you. So that's not a good thing to do. What's good to do is just to have your Marines and move like this instead, and place them hold position or something like like that. Okay, so because you will have a lot of SVs here, and he cannot really attack the Marines, but the Marines will be able to fire at those Zerglings. And if he does an all-in move here, you're gonna have your Marines covered by the SVs and also close to the choke. So that's usually what to think about when you place a bunker. Sometimes I also place a supply depot like in front of the bunker, like far in front of the bunker, to be able to have vision. like this. I have vision all the way over here, so I can react faster when he does an all encircling move. Or I could have the supply like this, so it would be harder for him to actually surround the bunker and attack it from every angle. But at some locations, like this for example, it would be also hard for my SVs to repair the bunker, so maybe this wouldn't be a good idea just on this location. Anyway, let's see here. Yeah, let's talk about supply placements. Usually in Terran versus Zerg, the supply placement isn't really that important. It's much more important in Terran versus Protoss and Terran versus Terran, in my opinion. Usually I just use the locations that are open to make supply depots. I can make a supply depots over here and also over here, and just make it in this area and in this area. And then in the late game, maybe I'll make some supply depots in this line and just try to fit them wherever I can. So but it's not good to make like supply depots in the corner of the base like this, because he can snipe them with mutalisks or stuff like that. And also just a little bit about the academy placement. It's also a tech building, of course, and you should place it, for example, here or close to your base, but also in a position where he won't be able to snipe it very easy with mutalisks or something like that. Anyway, that's about the supply placement. About supply ratio, well, if you have 2 command centers and 2 barracks pumping units constantly, then it's gonna have 1 SCV making a supply at all times. When you finish the supply, make another supply, then make another supply and another supply. And if your macro is good and you build SCVs constantly and the Marines constantly, then you're gonna cover that with 1 SCV making supply. But at the moment, as you add 1 or 2 more barracks, or have this many buildings or something like that, then you will have 2 SCVs usually making supplies at the same time, and when they finished making supplies, make new supplies. So that's a little bit about the ratio of supply depots. Now let's talk about turret placements. Okay, I'm just gonna build a little arm here to show you. Okay, when you build turrets versus mutalisks, it's actually very important that you have good turret placement. Okay, so for example, usually in the mineral line versus 3 hatch muta, for example, I have 3 turrets. Oh, let's see here. I usually have 3 turrets. I have them rather close to each other, but also so they cover. He cannot sneak in from any angle without them firing. And if they want to fire, usually all the 3 turrets should be able to fire. And then also, of course, you make turrets in your expansion. And usually I make 3 turrets here as well, because 3 turrets and Marines backup is usually enough to defend versus 11 or 9 mutalisks. On Othello, however, you have a cliff here, and it's a really good thing to move your SCV up here and make like 2 or even well, usually not 3, but at least 2 turrets up here, and then 3 turrets up here. So a total of like 5 turrets, because this place is actually pretty hard to defend. There are some maps where, for example, Blue Storm is also hard to defend versus mutalisks when they can work with the cliff here, and then it's better to just be on the safe side and make like 1 or 2 more turrets than usual. But also, it's very important to cover a 3rd spot, because now he cannot come in this position and he cannot come in this position, and usually he won't attack with his mutalisks in the front, because you're gonna have your bunker or rally points here with the units. So it's gonna try to sneak into your base anyway, scout and snipe SCVs, and then it's usually like a position on the map in your main where you can place where it's the 3rd place you should add your turrets. And usually I add 1 or 2 turrets there. 1 is actually enough if you have good micro with your Marines, but sometimes I make 2 turrets anyway, and I make them very close to each other, and I make them pretty far out so he cannot get in here without them firing. And also at the same time as I believe that his mutalisks are gonna come to my base, or like slightly before he's gonna come to my base, I move like 8 or 9 Marines from the area here, and like 2 medics, and I have them in my main. And then I have them control grouped here, and I have another control group of Marines here, and some medics. So if it comes with mutalisks here, for example, I just take this and I stim and I attack the mutalisks. If it comes here, I'm here and I defend. So it's really important that you have that you have Marines to back up your turrets. If example he come here right now, you just stim, run forward, and attack. Okay, I'm gonna talk more about Mutalisks, about how to micro versus Mutalisk on the micro section later on. But anyway, now as you see, you are always ready with one group of Marines and 2 or 3 turrets here versus any kind of attempt to attack with Mutalisks. And then if he moves away here and he goes here instead, you have a little group here with Marines as well, and you do the same thing. So it's very good to split up your Marines like that. Let's see here. Yeah, turret timing. Well, usually you can start making your turrets when his Mutalisks are like almost finished, because they will take like a while to move to your base. But I mean, if you don't have the timings perfectly perfect, then you can just be a little bit more on the safe side. Most of my build order VODs will cover when to place turrets pretty specifically, so it's not going to be a very hard issue to handle. And then of course he could do like a 2-hatch muta build or something like that, and then you cannot usually add like 3 turrets here, 3 turrets here, or 5 turrets here, and 2 turrets here at the same time. But if he does two hatch, you're gonna start making your turrets much earlier. So you make 1 turret at each location, starting with the location where his Mutalisk is most likely to attack the first time, and then when that turret is finished, you take the same SV and make another turret, and you can scan him and see if he does more Mutalisks, and then you just keep making a turret with 1 SV at all these locations, because he's going to be at your base with 6 or max 7 Mutalisks at the first attempt of attack. And if you have some Marines and 1 turret, that is going to be enough to fend off that attack with 6 Mutalisks. And when he has more Mutalisks, you're going to have more turrets in a decent ratio. So I mean, if you just keep making Mutalisks, you just keep making 1 turret with 1 SV at 3 spots at the same time as you macro Marines from barracks, and you're going to be pretty safe. So that's what I wanted to talk about, the turret placements as well. And I think I've covered most of the building placement things that concerns Terran versus Zerg. Of course, if you find anything, feel free to post it in my thread, stylish FPVODs on teamliquid.net. So let's move on to the next section. It's going to be about timings and upgrades. I mean, timings on upgrades and buildings. So let's see here. For example, if we can talk a little bit about tanks. When you make a tank, I mean siege mode. When you make siege mode, if you have your army in your main, usually on the most maps, it's like a distance. It's like this distance to the enemy base, and that distance is actually, when you walk that distance, it takes as much time as the siege mode takes to upgrade. I mean, it's not perfect time, but usually that's kind of like it. So usually when I move out, I haven't started my siege mode upgrade, because I'm gonna have siege mode outside his base if I do a timing push or something like that, so he will have to defend at his base. And then I start my siege mode when I move out, actually, with my tanks. I mean, of course there are some closer positions on some different maps, and then you have to start them earlier, but usually I start siege mode upgrade and then I move out, and I'm gonna have it upgraded when I arrive at his base. So that's pretty good. And also when you make your eBay, for example, if you place your eBay and then the eBay finishes, like then you have like 10 to 15 seconds to place a factory. And if you go straight from the factory to starport and to science facility, then the +1 upgrade is going to finish at the same time as the science facility is finished, and then you can start upgrading your second infantry weapon attack. And it's very good to time that, to utilize that timing, because it's really important with marine upgrade in Terran versus Zerg. And also at the same time as you're making your science facility, you should add, in most build orders, and not all of course, if you have gas and minerals for it, you should add an eBay at the same time as you make your science facility, because they actually take the same time to build. So then when the science facility is finished, you will have the 1 upgrade, and you can start armor and the second weapon upgrade, or the first weapon upgrade and the second armor upgrade, depending on of course what upgrade you upgraded first. So that's a little bit about that. Let's see here. Oh yeah, I should have covered my turret timings in this section, but I did it in the other section, so well, I think I've covered most of the building timings. That's really important. One more building timing that is very important is the bunker timing. Usually on most locations, when his Zerglings is attacking your base without speed, like the first Zerglings, the first 6 Zerglings, when they are at his choke here or just a little bit outside his choke, then you have to start making a bunker, and then the bunker will be finished at the same time as he comes to your base, a little bit earlier, because you want to have time to move in with the Marines in the bunker. I mean, if his Zerglings is like here and then you move into the bunker, you're gonna miss some fire time, and he's gonna be like here with the Zerglings when you start fire them, and then they can run in your base. So also always make sure that the Zerglings hasn't gotten any closer to your base than like this when your bunker is finished. So start making the bunker when his Zerglings usually are at his choke or right outside his choke on most locations. For example, like this location. Um, let's see here. Yeah, I don't think I have to do any more um, timings here. If I think of any other timing, I will put it in the last section or in another VOD or just in the forum. I will do a little write-up about this as well. Anyway, let's talk about control keys. I'm just gonna build up a little army here, so I can show you how I use my hotkeys. Okay, let's see here. The SCV shouldn't be there. Okay, so usually I have one control of Marines, and then a second control of Marines, and third control on the 3 it's medics, fourth is tanks, and 5 is vessels. This is like the standard thing. Some people have medics on the first hotkey, but I don't think that's very important. You can have how you want, but I usually have Marines on 1, 2, medics on 3, tanks on 4, and vessels on 5. And I think that's a good thing to do. Even in late game, usually I don't have armies bigger than this, other than if he doesn't have any swarm, because then you can use like a really big ball of units and kill Ultralisks and stuff like that. But if he has swarms, you have to do like cute stuff all over the map, and then you cannot usually have like a really big army. I mean, if you move out and attack and you're gonna have reinforcements, you don't really need to hotkey them, but you just control them manually. Um, so that's a little bit about how I control my units. I also control my buildings, of course. In the beginning of the game, I have command center on control 2 and the second command center on control 3. Then I have first barrack on 4 and second barrack on 5, because then I can, while I'm scouting with my SCV here, I can just click on 2S, 3S to make SCVs while I'm still controlling this, and also of course 4M, 5M to make to make to constantly make Marines, and that's really good to be able to control the Marine while you actually macro without having to go back and clicking on the buildings. So that's really good, but usually I only have that in the early game. In the late game, I actually don't macro with hotkeys. I just go back to my macro mode area and I do like this. But I'm going to talk more about that in the macro section. So also scans, I usually have scans on 0 in my main and 9 in my expansion. So those hotkeys doesn't really interfere with any of the other hotkeys, and that's good. So I can have those hotkeys on my scans all game long. And if I have a third scan, I usually take it on the control 8 button, because 9, 8, and 0 is pretty hard to have on your units. I think some people have it, but I don't have it. I don't recommend having it. So let's see here. That was units, buildings, and scans. Yeah, and also the F2, F3, and F4 button. Usually I have F2 in my main, F3 on my in my my expansion, and F4 in the macro mode. So for example, if I'm controlling my SV in his main, in the early game, I just control it like this, and I press like that, 2S, 3S, and I have new SVs. And once they're finished, I just go back with F2 to my main and move him through the mineral. Then F3 to my expansion, move him to the mineral, and then I double click on the one on the control 1 key again to get back to my SV. So I can really do this very fast, and I will do it like this. Okay, and then I go back to the SVs, and that's really good. And also the barracks, if you have them on 4 and 5, you can click 4 and set rally points really fast, and also macro while you're macroing your SV or whatever you're microing for the moment. And in the late game, usually I don't set new F2, F3 buttons, but I imagine it would be good to have like F2 on the macro where you have your rally points. But usually I just go there manually by clicking on the minimap. But one thing that is really important is that you have F4 or another F button. I use F4 because I'm used to it now on the macro mode, because it's really easy just to go back like this. You have like control 1 on your army, and then you go back and you macro up really fast, and then you go back by double clicking on 1 and you get back to the army. And this way you can actually go back and forth in battle and macro without having any severe losses usually. And that's really important in turn versus Zerg, because like 1 second too much can kill your entire army if you're sloppy or anything like that with the micro. So it's really important to think about. Yeah, well, let's see here. Maybe I should talk a little bit about rally points in this section as well. Usually in the late game, if you have all the rally points to this location, it's going to be pretty hard, and you're going to have a lot of units clumping together here. And if you have an expansion over here, for example, you might want to have your units rally point to this place. So to set new rally points really fast, I just press. Usually I have units on 1, 2, and 3 that is pretty hard to group, like Marines and Medics, because when you group them, you can't just do like that. You have to select your Marines like that, like this, and that is much harder to do than select your tanks and your vessels. So usually when I set new rally points with my buildings, I use the control key 4 and upwards. For example, here, if I'm going to set new hotkeys from all these buildings, there are 2 ways to do it. Either you can click, for example, like this, control 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you go back 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, and 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and that's done. And you can just practice this and do it as fast as possible. Usually you have to just do 2 rounds of that, and all your buildings will be set to a new macro location. That's much faster than going back and forth like this, of course. And the other way to do it is to set like F2 on the location where you want to, or F3 where you want to set your rally point. So you press F4, press on a building, and then F3 or F2, whatever you want to have to the macro location, and then you click like this, and you go back like this. You go back like this. Okay. So I haven't practiced this so much, so I'm not really that fast. But if you want to practice this, you can get really fast with that way as well. So both things is really good. And one thing that is really good about that is that you don't have to regroup your units after this, because when I do the control 5, 6, 7, 8 and stuff like that, usually I don't have 9 and 0 because I don't want to set new controls for the command centers. I mean the scans, and I anyway have to go 2 times, so using 9 and 0 isn't really optimal. But 4 and 5 I have used, so I just go back and I click control on my tanks, control 4, control on my vessel, control 5, and then I'm back to normal. So that is really good way to macro, I think, in late game. And also when you have reinforcements, that's quite important actually to know how to control them when you reinforce your army. For example, here, let's make some reinforcements. Oh, there. Just make some here. For example, if you attack here and your army is not well, your whole army isn't going to be alive at this point usually. He's going to have some killed. So let's say you have on your control 1, you only have like 5 Marines left actually, and you're attacking something over here. Then you go back and you bring the units. The first thing you do is you just select them and press them to move to the location where you want to go. And then you press on 1, and then you have shift and control. press both those buttons and then click on a marine like that. So you have your control 1 key here with 5 marines. Shift control click on the reinforcement marines, and it will add up in the control 1 key. But then you have to press control 1 again. So now if I press control 1, I will have the new units as well as the old units. And the same with medics like that. And the same with the vessels. If you have another vessel coming, you just shift and control, if there are more than one, of course, and then control 5 again. And that way you will really be able to keep your hotkeys the way you want and reinforce pretty fast. So I think that is the most important things about the hotkeys, and I'm gonna move on to the attack. The standard, baller push, I guess you could call it. Anyway, what you want to do here is you want to move out with two groups of medics, two groups of marines, one group of medic, one group of tank, and one group of vessels. Of course, not full groups of vessels, but anyway, you want to move out like this. And usually, it depends on your timing, of course, but he's going to have usually Mutalisks, Zerglings, and Lurkers ready. Sometimes it's going to be outside your base, and sometimes you're going to be at his base waiting for more units so he can flank your troops. It's very different. Anyway, what you want to do when you move out, the first thing I usually do is just I scan outside my base to see, is he outside my base or is he not outside my base, because that is very important. Anyway, at the same time as you move out, you want to take two SVs. You want to take two SVs and scout at the same time as you move out. Usually I do that because, for example, on this map you have 3 paths to your expansion, and he can do